HopeNet being one of them, which we love, HopeNet. Treehouse is here too, so I have to be very careful. I love them both so much. Honestly, what took my cup to. So. This is our third Spread Hope, and I know some of you have been here for all three, and some of you this is your first time. So I want to thank all of you. If you've been here supporting or not. So our goal with Spread Hope is to open up the communication about mental health. We want you to leave here and to be able to talk to your children, your siblings, somebody that you see, and be able to provide a resource, and just to be able to open up that communication. So that is our goal. Our goal is to touch one person's life here tonight, to give them one resource that they may need that will make a difference. And we will walk away and feel really great about this. So again, can't thank you all enough for being here to support us, to support HopeNet. And I'm going to pass it to Lynn. She is our moderator tonight, and she will introduce our wonderful board. Another way that another way we are supporting HopeNet, we are selling mental health stickers. They're $10. All proceeds will go back to HopeNet, and they are our cup campaign recipients starting tomorrow. And we have a really awesome cups for Mental Health Month. So every tea and soda that you buy, always we support somebody. Treehouse has been one too, but they will get a portion back from every soft drink. So we'd love, for you to walk on some of our awesome stickers. So thank you again, Jolene.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. It's always so fun to be here. And hi, Jason. Okay. Our panel is prepped and ready. Are you guys not? Say yeah. Say yeah. But I just kind of want to set the stage a little bit talk to you a little bit about what HopeNet is, who we are. We're a faith-based nonprofit under the leadership of Christian Doom. Okay. And we transform lives through coaching and counseling and training. And we are celebrating our 32nd year of existence this year in the Wichita community and serving also the surrounding areas. And really all of Kansas, since we have virtual capability. The conversation that's going to be happening today, what in the world is mental health and why does it matter? Just so that we are all on the same page about what I'm going to define that for us. So mental health includes our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, and also how we act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. Mental health problems are the pervasive illness that are deeply affecting children's education, safety, and futures. And that's from the American Psychological Association. And I love words, and so I think we'll hear people say that there is a youth mental health crisis. I see Amelia saying yeah, and I see some other heads. And the word that came out to me was crisis. And so a crisis is a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger, a time when a difficult or important decision must be made. But this is the one I like. The turning point. Everybody say turning point. Say it like you mean it. The turning point of a disease when an important change takes place, indicating either recovery or death. What will be our turning point as a result of tonight? And yes, we are having a youth mental health focus, but adults in the house, where are adults at? There's 5 adults, okay, can I get one more? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we didn't leave you out. So all we want to say tonight is this is really for everyone, even though we're focusing on youth, but we want you to walk away with whatever speaks to you, and we're really asking you tonight is to be one of those people that will make a difference in a lot of people's lives. Is that fair? Is that fair? Yes. Thank you, Jake. Man, we should just go on the road together, I tell you. So we're going go ahead and we're going to get the panelists started, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves and then also talk about either your passion for youth or youth mental health. We're going to start with you.
Hello, my name is Jason Fair. I am a physical education teacher at Truesdale. Truesdale is the biggest middle school in the state. So if we played sports, it would be a 5A. I also have been coaching youth sports for about 20 years. And so I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different kids in different social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and I think my passion is helping kids develop a passion. And so when you develop a passion, you're more likely to push through tough times.
My name is Kim Hoover, and so as far as my passion for mental health and particularly youth kind of started back with going to school, and I was a middle school teacher for 8 years and then a high school counselor for 24. And then just a little side note that was an impactful piece too is I'm adopted, and being adopted kind of made me look at that parenting process and childhood process a little bit differently, and so very much feel like that's a part of who I am today.
Hi everyone, my name is Amelia Phommachanh. I serve the great state of Kansas as Miss Asian Cultural Ambassador. I will be competing at Miss Kansas in June for my platform, advocating for my platform, which is Here For You Suicide Prevention. I want to remove the stigma surrounding mental health and specifically suicide prevention by sharing my own vulnerable story. I want to relate with other people, and I think that is what is the biggest step into tearing down the stigma surrounding mental health. So I also serve as the youngest board member at MHA, and I'm just really glad to be here with other people who want to advocate for the same thing.
My name is Morgan Burns. I'm a pastor at a church called Redeemer. It's a multi-ethnic church here in Wichita. A little bit about me. So I started as a youth pastor at a church downtown, and so I kind of spent a lot of time with youth early on, and then just being a lead pastor now, my heart is, and my co-pastor's heart, one of our values is emotional healthy spirituality. And so in people's formation, we think your emotional health is a part of a holistic approach of how you grow as individuals. And so how do we integrate theology and psychology in your growth and your discipleship. And then I also have kids as well, and so this is important for me. And then I've seen a therapist, done group counseling for some time, and so it's kind of been a part of my story as well.
Thank you. I was telling Morgan, I said, I remember when I met him for the first time, it was in a park, and he was being pretty passionate, and we're mutual K-Staters. There we go. Yeah, but the thing is just your decision to pastor instead of playing in the NFL was really big. So thanks for being here. Amelia.
Hi.
Okay. I just want to start with your story. And you can just share it with it and go from there.
So I grew up in a biracial household. I am 50% Laotian and 50% Caucasian. My dad is an immigrant from Laos. And growing up in this type of household, mental health was never mentioned. I had a great childhood. I went to an amazing school, Central Christian Academy, go Lions. Yeah, so it was a great environment, but then a big change happened in my life. My parents were getting a divorce. I had no idea what this was, and I said to my mom, promise me you and Dad are never going to get a divorce. And then the one thing that I was so afraid of happened. This put me in a deep, deep, dark depression that I had no idea what this feeling was, how to deal with it, who to talk to. I was the type of person that people would approach me and talk to me about how they were feeling. So I didn't feel like I could go to anyone. So during this time, I developed some suicidal ideations. I started self-harming myself. I started tearing down myself, but I knew that there was a God that loved me and cared about me still, but it didn't matter because what I was experiencing on earth was far worse than anything I could have imagined at that time. I was going into my freshman year of high school, and I just didn't know who to go to. I was so scared and tired that one night I just couldn't do it anymore. I attempted to take my life November 10th, 2018. But there was a voice that called out to me, and I know that voice was God. He saved my life, and I called my mom, and I ended up getting the help that I needed. And by sharing my story and being vulnerable and letting people know, hey, these feelings are real, but there's people that want to help you, and you can get the help that you need. So that's a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about mental health.
We're glad you're here. It's interesting that Amelia came in the halls of HopeNet one day, and there's a friend of a friend of a friend, and you guys know that we love the Getting Ahead program at HopeNet, and she was one of the child care providers, even after all of that, okay? So we're glad you're alive. We're glad you're here. And so I just want to ask from your perspectives, there's a Christmas song that says, you want to sing with me? Do you love you? Okay, it's not Christmas, but when I think about that, I'm going to start with Jason and just some perspectives from your vantage point as coach, as pastor, as counselor. Tell us, what do you see and what are you hearing among you?
I think the main thing, and I think everybody's aware of it, is just social media and how it affects them from the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed. Working with middle school kids in particular, and they haven't really yet developed their image, their identity, what I'm trying to say. And so if someone thinks they did something wrong, or if someone, don't like them for every way, that they can just put it on social media and then it spreads like wildfire. And their favorite thing to do is to point and shoot and look to see what's going on. And so if they make a mistake, then everyone knows about it. And so I think that is just weighing on them.
And so to add to the part that I left out, and Jillian's probably looking like, Kim, you forgot to tell me you work at HopeNet as a mental health therapist. And so, that transition, kind of that full circle transition, working with high school students, and then doing my internship at HopeNet, and then seeing the adult side of things, and then coming back to the high school to finish out that semester before I retired. That whole full circle I knew about just from working with parents in the school system, but these adults are coming in for mental health help. And as far as what I'm hearing from youth, which is the same thing I'm hearing from adults, is I just really need to be heard, and I really need to be understood. And where we seek that, makes a big difference. And so, like what you were saying, if you're seeking that connection or that being understood or heard from social media, you're going to get one message. And if you seek it from people who are genuinely trying to help and heal, you're going to get a different message. So I think that's the message, is they still just universally want to be heard and understood.
I want to know you to talk a little bit, even what are you seeing amongst your friends?
Like on social media.
Or just in general? In general, mental health.
So mental health, like you said, is a crisis in young people right now, because there's this type of persona that if you feel some type of way, it's looked at as weakness. As if you want help, it's not something that's practical. Man up, get through it. But here's the thing, trauma wants us to be silent. And people don't want to die, they just want their pain to stop. And I think that's where a lot of people get things confused. where this persona of, okay, but these are emotions and they're real, but they don't define me. So I believe that young people they feel as if their voice is taken away in that moment, and like they don't have any means to speak up and say how they feel, but that is just the most important thing we can do. So.
Yeah, I think I would add, I think looking at the last several years with COVID, I agree with Jason on social media, things going on in our world. There's a lot of things that have been thrown at the younger generation for them to process. And I feel like I've seen that they don't have the tools to know how to process all these negative emotions that they feel, the anxiety, the sadness, the anger. And more of those negative emotions, they see them as bad and they don't feel the freedom to express them, to talk about them. And so I see that. I feel like in the church as well, pastors don't have categories for emotional health or how do you lead people through trauma or their story or unpacking things. And so I see a weakness in the church. And then I also think, you can talk about different demographics. My mind goes to black men. I think there's different viewpoints of emotional health and mental health and different ethnic groups, and if you're a man or a woman, and different repercussions of, if you're a black man, you have anger, what do you do with it? Because if you express it in certain ways, that may get met with differently than someone else who expresses anger. So how do you navigate all of that? And it can be very challenging.
Thank you. I told them that I was going to ask them like a personal question. So, stress, pressure, worry, fear, loneliness, emotional pain, and overwhelm. Have you ever experienced these? And if yes, what did you find helpful to move outside of such feelings? Now, I'm going to give them the mic, and this is not a therapy session, so if it starts sounding like one to you guys right there, start collecting $250, okay? Don't owe me, okay? So I'm going to start with you. Okay.
I've never felt any of those emotions. That was a joke. Yeah, so I felt a lot of those emotions. And again, I think through seeing a therapist, I've gained some tools of just how to verbalize how I'm feeling, communicate my needs. And so there's a thing called the feelings wheel that I've used in therapy, and we kind of hand out to people at our church to kind of give people language of, oh, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so that's been a helpful tool. And then just thinking through healthy ways to cope, because there are some destructive ways that I've historically coped. But one of my mentors, he told me during COVID, he's like, if you do these three things, you should be in a pretty good spot emotionally. He said, get good sleep, do something active, so work out, and then his third thing was walk with the Lord. And so those have been three things I try to do every day that I think have been helpful. So, 250.
So, I have anxiety, and my heart is beating right now up here. So, I definitely do struggle with those things on a daily basis, but I've found so many coping ways to not mask, but to minimize and just, feel my best self. Like you said, routine is a really big thing. Having a routine every day, I make sure I make my bed, and then, make sure I eat a well-balanced meal, and all these things. But I think the biggest thing is understanding that mental health is human health. And it's just as important as your physical health, and so if you're not meeting one of those needs, versus whether that be mental or physical health, it can become rocky. So I just try and keep them balanced. Like, routine is really important, and then also just talking to mentors and families and having a support system.
All of the above. And like Amelia was saying, like the message for young people is like, figure it out, But I think that's also, and I'll just speak from the female perspective, keep going. You got a family. I know I saw the nod. Thank you very much. You got a family, you got a husband, you got a job responsibility, you got whatever. You got to keep going. You can't stop. All these people are depending on you. You got to keep going, keep going, keep going. So in terms of like how to move through that or out of that, what I've learned, and a lot of it's learning by telling other people this is what you should also do, is making space for it. Not just go, do, but actually take a minute and check in with yourself and that handy dandy feelings. Well, that is the most awesome tool ever, because sometimes we react or we have an emotion that creeps up on us, but we don't check in with it and see what's really going on. So making space on an ongoing basis to check in and see what's coming up for you, where is it coming from, and then what can you do to get it to go in a good direction.
Recently I had a trauma and my neck started hurting. And I was like, it wasn't a connection at first for me. And so then my back started hurting, and I just thought it was a process of getting old. And then it dawned on me, someone said, well, that's stress. And I was like, and it was a light bulb went off. And I thought to myself, well, if I just realized that and I'm like 45, what is a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old? How do they process that? And so I started let me back up. When the weekend comes, when Friday comes, the kids start acting a little crazy. and I just chalked it up to them being middle schoolers. But then it dawned on me that they were feeling a certain type of way because of school was going to be gone and the structure wasn't going to be there and all these things are going to happen, and so they started acting out. So we started doing a 5 minutes of stretching and 5 minutes of quiet meditation. And at first they was like, Mr. Fear, you do too much. This is crazy. Then it got to, hey, can we turn off the lights? Then it got to, can we go outside and do this? And I think they felt permission to be still and to be quiet, which was, then it dawned on me, no one ever tells you or teaches you, there's no class on identifying how to deal with the emotions that are going on. No one gave anyone like a will to communicate. And I think the biggest thing is there's frustration in not knowing how to communicate how you feel. And you don't know how to, one, process it, but then when you do, what do you do? And so I don't think in their normal day activity or there is like, when you feel this, you should do this, or these are some options you can do. And I just feel like there's an opportunity when we talk about the crisis, and Morgan talked about it earlier, is teaching, giving kids, and even adults, tools to deal with mental health. And not only tools, but teaching them to identify what they're feeling and how to describe it. Because once you learn how to describe it, then maybe I can communicate, and then I'll feel better on how I'm supposed to be feeling.
Good, thank you. Amelia, you said something that kind of got me to want to come back, because you talked about a support system. And I know it's even hard for adults, to find their friends. So what does that look like for a young person? What is a healthy support system? What are the ingredients? Bake a cake for us.
Alright. So I think support comes with finding genuine, real people that you feel a connection with. And when you find that connection, So, for example, me and my friend the other day, we were talking about, mental health and what's going on in our lives, and they didn't understand a part of something, and I had to explain it. I had to educate them to understand what they were feeling in that moment. And I think it's important to have strong people that you can turn to, whether that be your family, friends, but it's also most important to support yourself. You have to support yourself if you want to feel this sense of realism within who you are. I think that was the hardest thing for me was, I'm still so young, I'm still trying to figure out, who I am, what I want with my life, but I have these people who are supporting me with what I do because they love me, and it also shows that I love myself at the end of the day. So is that like a little bit fair?
I actually want to throw it to the audience. And I'm not going to ask you to share or anything like that, but I want you to think about right now, kids, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, up to 80s. Who are the people in your support system? I just want you to think about that right now. Okay, you have them in your head. You saw some people pop up. The next thing I want you to think about is, how would you describe them? Like, what do they deliver that nobody else can? Think about that right now. I'm going to ask the panel to say what came to their mind.
What came to my mind when I think about my support system is people who know me really well, who know my story, who know my tendencies, who can speak into my life when there are blind spots and when I'm going down a path that maybe I need them to kind of come in and speak into my life because I don't have the discipline to get there. And so people who know my story, I feel known, people I feel safe with. And so they have a track record of me sharing hard emotions and then responding well, listening, empathizing. And then I think the other thing that popped in my mind is people a little farther along in their journey than me who could kind of give me a pathway and almost normalize emotions. I think that's important for the youth, is normalizing emotions, because many of them feel like this is only me. And so they were to normalize things. Of course you feel that way. I felt that, and so that kind of helped me in my journey. So those are things that pop up. I don't know if that's what you wanted me to say.
Beautiful. Support for me, what I thought of was unconditional love. I feel like with people, when you feel love, like if somebody confides in me, it makes me want to confide in them. And I believe that you can find people who support you everywhere, because there are supporters everywhere. We all want to support each other. We all are for each other. But I think it's really important, the unconditional love part. Just loving somebody. My family loves me through all of my things that I go through. I love myself through all my anxieties and worries, and God loves me through absolutely everything. So I just really think unconditional love is very important.
So I'm going to say that God planted that question because that's exactly where my mind has been like all day. And I woke up this morning thinking about the difference between the response that comes from a place of fear and a response that comes from a place of love. And those feel completely different. But, my heart, when I think about mental health for youth, my heart actually goes out to the adults in their lives, because you're the ones on the front lines that will come into contact with them who are in a position to help. Their friends may come into a position to triage, for a bit, but in terms of getting someone who is not in a position to get help for themselves. It's the parents or the adults in their lives that are going to be that person. So, thinking about what happens to that adult in that moment when your amygdala is hijacked and you are in fear, flight, or fight mode because your young person just came to you and said, I don't think I want to be here anymore. I don't want to be on this planet anymore. I don't have anything to live for. An emotional response happened to you. And now you have to regulate this young person who's in front of you. So when I think about the support people that are the most critical, it's those ones that can take that moment, that can center themselves for whatever information I have to deliver to them, and then they can meet me in that place of unconditional love, that they're a little further down the road in life than I am on that particular subject, and they can meet me from a place of love.
I think support system is someone who is not afraid to ask questions. And they have to know you, and they have to know your habits, and they have to be connected to you. But because then they can identify, hey, what's going on? You're acting a little different, or this is going on. Did that affect you? And giving them an opportunity to, respond. Because if they're hiding or if they're withdrawn and no one's seeking them out, then that's so hard. Then you really don't have anyone supporting you because they don't really know you. But if you have someone who's like, hey, man, I haven't seen you in class in like a couple days. What's going on? It gives them an opportunity to share. So.
Thank you. And you guys, there's somebody in this room right now that I asked that question to think about your support system. And there is someone in this room that said, all of that sounds good, but I have no money. I want HopeNet board members and staff to at least raise your hands. If that is you tonight, before you leave, find one of us. Is that fair? Along with the panel, because I was single till I was 35, and I'm not from Wichita, and trying to find friends, and sometimes I'm like wanting to be your friend, and you don't want to be my friend. So then where do you find people? There's so many people in this room tonight that would love to connect with you. So please make sure that happens tonight. Is that fair? Okay. I wanted to talk another question. Let's talk about the stigma of getting help. And so, how can we help others? Not just young people, but I want you to think about them too. How do we help right now to get rid of the stigma? And stigma is a set of negative and unfair beliefs that a society or a group of people have about something. So that negative belief could be about getting help for mental health, or mental health doesn't exist. That's not a big deal. Be quiet, let's move on. So think about, is that a loaded question, Jason? For the stigma, getting rid of it? Help? Can you help us?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I think having open conversation and just making it normal. How do you feel today? Like as you go throughout your day, like how was your day? Like I struggled, and letting people know that, hey, I struggled today. Do you have anything for me? You can start by just having dialogues with people and letting them know that, man, I had a bad day and I don't know what to do. And so that opens the door for them to say, I had a bad day. So just having an open dialogue and being ready to share.
I don't know if you guys remember this. I'm looking at the ages in here, so there may be the age gap is getting ready to happen. But when there was a commercial that came out when they were first starting to launch cholesterol medication, and there was you had an older gentleman sitting out on a porch, and you know his wife was trying to get him to take this cholesterol medication, and he was kind of hemming and hawing. And then in the distance you see his little young granddaughter running toward him, and you know then he's, I'll take the medicine, you know, kind of thing. So when I think about the stigma, I think we have to look at mental health in the same way, because if you're going to pass this gift of time, you know, on to the people in your life, and you're going to be healthy in a way that you can enjoy life, then mental health is the same thing as taking care of your physical health. And so there shouldn't be any differentiation between the two. And I think the more conversations we say, your mind is what's making all the rest of this function. So we need to take care of that part just as much as anything else. And it's probably the most volatile, you know. Your cholesterol might tick up a couple of points, you know, every year depending on how you're taking care of yourself. But any one little thing can affect, you know, how you're processing things.
Uncomfortable conversations create a comfortable truth. Uncomfortable conversations create a comfortable truth. I believe that mental health, for some reason, is, well, I know we all know the reason and why, is a very uncomfortable topic to speak on. I believe real, vulnerable, authentic, genuine connections with people is what leads to the removal of stigma. I meet with this individual every week just to check in and chat with them. And we have real conversations. And they open up to me about how they feel. And it's just such a beautiful experience when you can connect with somebody with words. But not only words, because actions, they speak loud. And something that somebody told me the other day is, what is the best advice that you can give a child? And it's not what you can say to a child, but it's what you show to a child. So if you're showing up, doing the thing, talking about the thing, you're automatically removing the stigma.
That is good. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think what Jason said was great about asking questions. And I think one way you can break down stigma is talk about your own journey. And your own kind of mental health journey, and how you've seen a therapist and things you've walked through, and being transparent. So again, I think it normalizes it. I think it says me too. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would add. Because I think what I found as a pastor is one of the most impactful things I can do is really just be transparent and honest about my journey and my hang-ups and my wounds and how I struggle with anxiety and people pleasing and you name it. And talk about it from the stage. And again, not talk about it in a way where at the end there's this nice bow on the wind and I've been healed, I'm done. But no, it's a journey and it's going to be something I work at for a long time. That's another thing the church, I think, kind of struggles with that is this victory narrative that, you know, you're going to accomplish something and you're never going to struggle with it again. And so, yeah, there's a couple of things I'd say.
Yes. So I kind of have my list of L words, and so love was one of them, but light was the other one. And holding things in light so that we can see them and talk about them, because what happens is if the stigma is there, it makes that feeling to shrink back very strong. You know, if you think about anytime you do something quote unquote wrong or embarrassing or that has guilt, there's that shrinking back. I don't want other people to know. But it's when you bring that into light that helps that healing. And for the youth, they're watching us adults and how we handle struggles. And if we shrink back within ourselves and we hide because we're embarrassed or we don't want to talk about that or we want people to know whatever's going on, and we don't reach out to people who can help us, our kids see that and they go, okay, so when I have a problem, I need to shrink back and I can't tell people. So they're watching us as examples for that. So the best thing we can do is say, hey, kids, Mom's struggling with this, and so she's going to reach out and she's going to get some help with this and come out on this other side, because that's a gift I'm giving to you so that you know how to handle struggles when they come your way.
Morgan said something. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to throw it to the, I was going to say I was going to throw it to the congregation again, to the audience again, and don't answer this out loud. Has anyone in this room been raised to be perfect? Do not raise your hand. Is there anyone in this room that is a people pleaser? I see nods. I see. You guys, that didn't start when you walked into Chicken and Pickle tonight. It started when we were really young. Those messages, spoken and unspoken. And I really believe that those are the things that keep us paralyzed today, to not speak authentically, to not tell people the truth, to not bring things into the light. And if any of those are you or me, how do we begin to do something different tonight? To think about, I need to find that saved person. I need to be real with that person. I remember talking to Christian one day and I said, who's your person? Get a person, go buy one. You know? Because it's a real thing that someone that will hold your stuff. We're going to have one more question, and then we're going to move into our coloring activity, but we're going to have Mr. Daniel Baird come and talk to us about the ham pan. The question is, what are the negative and positive? What's the impact of social media, negative and positive?
So social media for me, I use social media every single day. I believe if something negative is the comparing factor for young people. Looking at a picture and being like, goodness, I wish that I looked like them. But we've been doing this comparing thing since the beginning of time. And so I think that's something that's inside of us that, you know, I find myself comparing too. I'm human, you know, where I wasn't made perfect, you know. So I think that's something negative that can be brought out. But I think something positive is, I'm trying to find the best way to word this, but for me, my platform, I'm sharing more every day about my platform and my story and who I am by being real on social media. So it's really how you use it. I think it's a positive thing for me because I am being authentically myself and genuine. So, yeah, so.
So working in a school district, you can imagine what my thoughts are about social media. So the negative part was, you know, a lot of times everything that was going on that was negative, that was coming up in the school was all happening, you know, in social media. But the good thing about it is those kids would rat each other out, and it was really great because if they had a friend who was struggling or posting something that sounded something to the effect of, you know, I was gonna, I'm thinking about committing suicide, or I don't want to be here anymore, or anything like that, those kids would make a beeline into the counselor's office and they would out their friend. And so I would say sometimes that's the pulse beat, you know, that's how they talk and how they communicate. And if you're watching, you know, it can serve as a way to get somebody some help where they would maybe speak it out loud. I'd say the other thing too is they're talking about mental health in social media. And I don't know if the kids have the stigma as much as maybe us older people. I'm sorry I'm missing. But so I think that's the positive and negative.
I think I just want to echo, like, the negative is comparing, and then also your mistakes being magnified and you can't run away from them. But the positive is they use it to learn how to paint. They use it to learn how to play basketball. They use it to learn, you know, different tricks. So the educational part of it is amazing. I mean, typically they're going to struggle like trying to find the information in the book, but they can go to TikTok and figure out how to do investing. And so it can be a powerful tool of learning how to do things, but it can also be a positive tool even in just feeling not as good as someone else. So it's just teaching them how to use the tool.
There's teaching involved? You don't just hand somebody a phone and say, you go for it.
Good luck.
Okay.
Now just joking.
Okay. You guys give our panel a great round of applause.
I had some time to think. And I want to be completely transparent. So about 2.5 years ago, whenever COVID happened, we're still in COVID maybe, I don't know. Everything with George Floyd, I chose to get off social media, and I've been off for 2.5 years off social media. It's been very good for my emotional health for a lot of reasons. I think a positive is it gives you people like you a platform, but I think the negatives is it gives everyone a platform. And there are things that people speak out on that they have no business speaking out on. And so adding to that, I think there are all these narratives and messages that are being communicated on social media. It can be very overwhelming. And as a parent, we don't know what all your kids are taking in. How do you coach them and teach them through all these narratives and messages? I also think social media can have the illusion of connection, but not actually real connection. Oh, I have all these followers, I have all these friends. People liked my thing 1,000 times. I'm really connected. That's not real connection. And so, I think there's a lot of good for social media. I think there's also, I think the younger generation is showing them how to connect and relate and have a conversation. And so I probably see a lot more negatives in social media. And I think it's also changed from when Facebook and Instagram first started to now. It's just overwhelming, and there's politics, and there's so many things. And so, yeah.
And I think for me also is, it's not going away. So I think that's when the education comes. Because you have to teach people to what is real and what isn't real. And can you follow it up? So we can for lack of a better phrase, put our head in the sand and act like it's not there. But it is there, and it's not going away. So then, how do we teach them to deal with it?
I need to take these people on the road with me. You guys are great. Give them another hand. We're going to give away 2 prizes too. So the first 2 people to raise their hand, you guys be watching, you're going to name at least one thing that makes up for a good support system. Go.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Yay. Will you take it? Yeah. You, listen to me. Okay. Accountability. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Okay. Wow. Did you guys learn something? Are you encouraged? I want you to look at somebody at your table and just do this to them. I woke up the other morning and my husband was like just laying in the bed doing this. And I said, who are you waving at? He said, I don't know. So I just started waving with him. Okay? But I want our wave tonight and waving at that person across the table from me and said, I see you. I see you. I've been with you tonight. And we talked about some important stuff. So, we're all bonded for life? Somebody say yes? Yes. Okay, give them another hand. This is my friend that I met 2 weeks ago. My friend Pat knows that I call everyone my friend, okay? Daniel, we were at a retreat. Michelle, Martin, and I were representing HopeNet down in Park City at a camp. and I thought there was a piano playing on the stage, and there was nobody at the piano. Then all of a sudden I see this guy playing this handpan. I had no idea what it is, but you're going to tell us. So give him a hand for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight to share the handpan with you guys. It's my biggest passion, and I feel like it's very therapeutic. So when I got my first handpan, I went back to school. I got my psychology degree. I want to get my master's in social work and use this for therapy. I mainly played for healthcare facilities, hospice, memory care, and assisted living. I played for homeless events too. And I've been going into the schools and playing with the kids and getting them to play with them. The nice thing about these instruments is each one's made in a different key. That's why I have two of them. So all the notes on this one goes together. You can't hit a wrong note. So that can be therapeutic in itself, just to get into that play mindset. I also think that these are really good for expressing and exploring emotions that you might not be able to have words for. And it's so peaceful that it kind of forces you to get present and be mindful. So thank you for having me.
I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to ask Santia to come to the mic. We're going to get ready. We're going to just, everybody stand up and take a breather for a minute. And then we're going to get ready for our mindful coloring activity. Yay. Okay, everybody grab your seats. That was a quick 5 minutes, wasn't it? Okay? Wasn't it? Miss Santia Levy Mason is a friend to HopeNet, and she was part of our board this year. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about mindful coloring activity, and then we'll get things to your table so that you'll be able to do that. Okay? Okay, everybody ready? Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Santia Levy Mason. I am a local artist. I'm an author. I'm an illustrator, overall creator, and I am the owner of Get Your Color On Studios. We are a studio that is open to the public that allows families to re-engage through the art of mindful coloring. Mindful coloring is very elementary. It's something that we did as children. We all had coloring books, we all had crayons. But what I like to do is actually encourage everyone, when they're doing this, to be in the moment and to be present and focus on what you have in front of you. We are all going to be dealt the same colors. We are all going to have the similar crayon boxes. But what I want you to think about is the fact that we all are dealt the same colors in life, but we all end up with a different picture. So I just want to say thank you to HopeNet for having me and embracing this activity because this is something that I'm trying to continue to bring to Wichita so that families can re-engage without social media, without electronics and things like that. But just go back to that nitty-gritty, being one with yourself, I guess you could say, being relating back to your childhood. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I want you guys to all take your time, colorful your beautiful pictures, and you can always share them on social media. once you're done, if you like to show your masterpiece. Because at the end, you're going to get this great, really good feeling of endorphins and dopamine. We need that. So, anyway, thank you for having me, guys, and enjoy.
Yeah, they just need more papers.
I don't even have any in here.